Good morning again, everyone. You're not going to get rid of me that easily. I am back now for the second time, Emily Brink. Once again, it's a pleasure that you're all here today. So we're going to kind of test this out today. So our presentation is around maximizing vocational rehabilitation outcomes and looking at leveraging high quality technical assistance centers for lasting impact. Is kind of our presentation today. Sorry, I think we're kind of the pilot. Do we say next slide or do we? Oh, yes, I just told them that and I forgot already. Sorry, that was my one tech moment of the day. So I will have our QE team kind of present themselves on their own, but I'm Emily Brink. Once again, I am part of the IPART team, and one of the projects that I'm on is the Quality Employment Grant, as serving as a state liaison. Yes, please. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hi there, I'm Jeff Meyer. I'm project assistant, University of Wisconsin-Madison, and it's really a privilege to be here to show off what the VRTAC QE team has been doing for the last couple of years. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kate Anderson, hi, Steve, also with the QE team, and I have the pleasure of serving as a researcher.
Hi, everyone. Chelsea Bramer, also a researcher with the QE team.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica Holton, and I am also part of the IPART team and the QE team as project manager, state liaison, filling in where needed. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Welcome, everyone. My name is Malachi Bishop, and I'm the co-PI with Tim Tanzi on the QE project. Thank you.
And lastly, Tim Tanzi will be joining us in a little bit for the presentation at the end. He is the PI of the project. Okay, so kind of the goal of this project, if you haven't heard already, being in year 505 of the project, our goal is really to increase the number and quality of employment outcomes for individuals with disabilities through training and technical assistance and supporting state vocational rehabilitation agencies. We worked a lot with the agencies, we worked a lot with community partners and key stakeholders. And it really was, once again, a team effort that we're going to talk about here in a second, but it was really to implement innovative and effective employment strategies and supporting practices. So once again, here are our great project partners that we worked with on this project, as well as some additional people that are not shown on the screen that helped us consult over the last 5 years. Once again, we could have not done this project with all of your support. Once again, we could not have done this as well without the state vocational rehabilitation agencies working with us as well. And they're not mentioned on this slide, but wanted to say thank you to them. And lastly, before I turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Kate Anderson, wanting to just acknowledge the acknowledgement and disclaimer that the contents of this presentation were developed under a grant from the U.S. Department of Education. So this content does not necessarily represent the policy of the U.S. Department of Education. And you should not assume endorsement of the federal government.
Okay, so before we jump into the learning objectives, quick show of hands in terms of, were you one of the partners that we had listed, the logos on the screen? We have a lot of partners here. So, yeah. So thank you, because again, as Emily mentioned, we could not do this without you, and the strength is in the collaboration. We are in our 5th year of the funding cycle for QE, and it has been an absolute pleasure. We have a treasure trove of resources and whatnot, which we'll share some of those with you here in a little bit, and we encourage you to take them, use them, share them, and put them into practice. So this morning, our learning objectives are to recognize the value of technical assistance centers in enhancing the quality of vocational rehabilitation services. Everything we do, again, is in partnership with the field and with our colleagues in VR. Also, apply insights to lessons learned by states that are engaged in technical assistance and specifically intensive technical assistance. And we'll share a little bit more about the ITA here in a bit, but these are generally no less than a year, but oftentimes multi-year, again, partnerships with the field. And comprehend the process and pathways from receiving TA to successfully implement strategies. So again, taking what we learn, how do we package this, and then not just let it sit on a shelf, but how do we move this and translate these resources into implementation in the field? Okay. So again, overview, we'll provide a brief introduction to the VRTAC QE, discuss our purpose, which is to enhance the VR services and support competitive integrated employment of individuals with disabilities. And we have 6 core objectives. State-of-the-art accessible website, which we've accomplished. And again, we'll share this with you in a bit. Encourage you to access that, take resources, share them, and use them. Comprehensive review of best practices, intensive, targeted, and universal technical assistance. So 3 different kind of layers of technical assistance. Again, collaboration with other technical assistance centers. So we don't do this in isolation. We don't do this in a bubble. We actively collaborate and connect with our colleagues across other technical assistance centers. Dissemination of findings and resources. Again, getting everything out into the field across multiple stakeholder groups. And last, but certainly not least, rigorous evaluation using the RSA 911 data set. So the case service data that we have access to through RSA. And again, the 6 core objectives. Was I supposed to? Oh, I'm sorry. Beth.
Just to reiterate our 6 core objectives: a state-of-the-art accessible website, comprehensive review of best practices in the field, to have intensive, targeted, and universal TA, and collaboration with other TA centers, dissemination of findings and resources, and finally, rigorous evaluation using RSA 911 data. So our first objective was a state-of-the-art accessible website. So it's a 21st century, and we really, this was really sort of the central piece of this, to bring this information electronically to people digitally. The website launched March 22nd, 2021. So already 4 years ago. And the key features of this are access to resources. So no matter where you are, you can access these resources. These are, of course, free. This was funded by the Department of Education. So there's no, of course, you can create an account to register for events, but there's no fee associated with it. We have interactive tools, webinars, fact sheets, toolkits, and guides. So you can actually see what we're doing right now on the website. Now there's a delay, of course, it's not live, but previous webinars are available on there. Fact sheets that were developed by counselors and researchers. We created toolkits and guides, and these are in-depth manuals about how to do different approaches to vocational rehabilitation. For instance, we have an outreach manual. We have a whole, essentially a unit or a lesson on doing outreach that really tries to tackle it from a comprehensive perspective. We have collaborative spaces and dedicated spaces. We've had great success with this website. We're very happy. We have almost 14,000 registered members. So almost 14,000 people have registered their username and set up an account. And then you think about that, like how many people haven't set up, they've used the website, but they haven't, officially registered. So an increase of 1,000 people in the last year. We have 24,000 individuals registered for at least one on-demand module, and 25,500 people registered for webinars over this 4-year period. So you think about it, it's basically the size of a major university. If you think about it, all the professionals that are collaborating with this, using these resources. We've had 5,000 training completion certificates issued, which feels amazing because, you know, these are people, professionals in the field that are getting credits and certifications for this work. And so we, in addition to providing a lot of information, we're providing training and certification. We've had regular updates with the content, and we have done many peer-reviewed publications. And so in the literature over the last few years, you will see the VRTAC QE team involved in numerous publications in vocational rehabilitations. We've had some very substantial impact on the field. And we've had very high ratings, over 90% by the participants, for relevance, quality, and usability. We have tailored the website to meet the needs of service areas. We have after the grant is completed this year, the website will still be available for several years. It's not like the grant is going to conclude this year and then the website disappears. It's going to be available online, usable, and accessible for several years to come.
Thank you. So our second objective was around comprehensive reviews of best practices. So when you know, if you're definitely into, or you do a lot of grant work, you're like, oh, I wrote a grant, and then it's like, oh, I got awarded the grant, and it's like, oh, I got awarded the grant. So what does that mean? How do we actually implement this, and how do we do this in an ethical, best practice kind of way? So our team did a really large comprehensive review of what is out there. And we reviewed 178 reports. 42 of those were RSA monitoring reports from 2016 to 2021. We looked at 84 different state VR WIOA plans, and we looked at 46 different comprehensive statewide needs assessments. So once again, this is all information that was provided by state vocational rehabilitation agencies that they were either willing to share or were on their websites that we use in order to make informed decisions about what kind of training is needed? Where are we seeing gaps in services? What are SVRA agencies doing well? And maybe what do they not need services in? So we were really able to take a comprehensive assessment using that. Through this, we were able to publish findings in 26 peer-reviewed journals around some of our highest need areas, including customized employment, business engagement, transportation services or challenges, and transition services. And the great thing about this and through this grant was we want to give information for free and we want people to be informed. And so all of these are open access journals, so anybody can access them. So it provides that accessibility for a broad audience. So once again, through some additional data collection agencies, we did a needs assessment survey where 229 VR professionals and 92 community-based rehab members provided some feedback to us. And we took that information to really drive the training and the practice. So 88.7% of participants use information into practice. 65 made some kind of adoption rate based off of those articles. And this was through this so JVR, Journal of Vocational Rehabilitation, through the 13 special articles. And lastly, through this, we have also created plain language summaries on our website. So if you're busy like all of you are and you don't have time to read a whole article, we created just some summary pieces on those so you can read the key highlights. It's kind of the Spark Notes version, if you remember that from high school, in that sense. And we have a lot of interactive toolkits, which I believe somebody else is going to talk a little bit about later, so I don't want to dive into that too much right now. So just kind of that widespread adoption, so very proud of our team. But that kind of goes more in depth into our next objective.
Morning again. So we're just going to cover and give you some numbers and examples of the different types of technical assistance that we provided. And those were the ITA, the intensive, TTA, which was the targeted, and then we also have the UTA, which is the universal. So to give you a snapshot, we had for intensive technical assistance, as far as engagement in year 4, we had a total of 18 different state vocational rehab agencies that signed with us. And then we also had a total of 20 signed ITA agreements. And we had about 830 individuals across 39 SVRAs in year 4 receiving some of these activities that we've provided through the technical assistance and our partners. Of these outcomes, 31% of those ITA projects were completed. We are still providing consultation and on ITA to a couple of states that signed on in this last year. We are providing that ongoing support and that ongoing mentoring. And so far, as a result of some of the evaluations and surveys that we've gotten back, we wanted to share that a lot of our participants reported that 90.5% rated it as high quality. 89% found it relevant, and 87% said it was useful to their work. So we are trying to make sure, right, that the technical assistance that we're providing is stuff that is effective and something that they can implement and take forward as they continue to work with their consumers. And so just a few examples of some of the completed projects included some of the things that were already mentioned as far as developing toolkits, expanding partnerships between different agencies around the states, and looking at and revising supported employment policies, customized employment policies, and other areas where states may have asked for that extra assistance. For targeted technical assistance, we worked with 6 state voc rehab agencies over the past 4 years, and 3 of them have been active in this past year 4. And so these are time-limited projects that address some specific needs that we know it's going to kind of be quick and intensive, as implied in the title. And so some of those have been specific to maybe transportation solutions. We know how much of a struggle that can be, especially in rural areas of states, justice-involved populations, and strategies for working with communities who may be underserved. We also work with states on coming up with some innovative methods, such as figuring out how to do outreach in rural areas, maybe working with faith-based communities and other groups as well that we might not be catching without some of this targeted assistance. We also have the implementation groups that were mentioned as well, as far as different topics and how staff can go out and use these different toolkits or resources that we've helped put together. And some of those topics include career pathways, customized training, apprenticeship, and then you can see some of the outcome numbers listed up there as well, as far as how participants feel about our targeted technical assistance is high quality, 86.5% finding it relevant, and then 86.8% saying that it was useful. As far as UTA, so our universal technical assistance, we've had almost 4,000 registrations for on-demand modules in year 5 alone. So these are modules that are on our website that people can register for and walk through on their own. We've had over 3,200 registrations for the monthly webinars that we've provided in this past year 5. We've had 6 of them so far, and they will continue to go on through the end of the project. And then we've had over 5,000 certificates for individuals who have completed these universal modules that we have available on our website. We have a very large resource library that includes training sessions, the webinars that we have hosted on a monthly basis. There are quick fact sheets that might be available and a little bit more easier to grab the quick high-level important points of different topics. We have research summaries, resource guides, and then again, we've gotten feedback from our participants as far as 94% ranking it as high quality, 93% finding it relevant, and 88.3% saying that it was useful. And then we just wanted to share one quick quote as far as what a participant posted as far as a testimonial regarding the different intensive, targeted, and universal technical assistance that we've provided, and saying that they felt on a scale of 1 to 10, they would absolutely rank it a 10, being the most relevant, the most helpful, and appreciating all the knowledge and expertise that has come as a result of all of our partnerships and work in Tech QE.
Objective 4, collaboration with other technical assistance centers. This is a personal favorite of mine. So when RSA has funded the technical assistance centers, and there are several of us, QE being one of the requirements is collaboration with other technical assistance centers, as well as other resources and stakeholders in the field. We really embrace this, not just following the letter of the law, but really trying to embody this spirit of collaboration. Some of the key collaboration and activities that we have engaged in through QE include the cross-center coordination. This includes the Vocational Rehabilitation Technical Assistance Center for Quality Management, which I know some of you are involved with that center as well. We actually connect very closely behind the scenes with these folks. National Technical Assistance Center on Transition, the Collaborative, which has been in existence under different names over the years, but again, key collaborators, especially around serving youth and students in transition. And the American Indian Vocational Rehabilitation Technical Assistance Center, Training and Technical Assistance Center, excuse me, is another key collaborator that we connect with closely as they provide technical assistance specifically to the American Indian Voc Rehab grantees. Also, the shared training and technical assistance initiatives, and a lot of joint training and workshops. So oftentimes the publications that Jeff was mentioning earlier, the peer-reviewed publications, open access, you'll notice that we have collaborative acknowledgements. So you'll oftentimes see multiple centers collaborating on these various publications and resources. Pre-conference workshops, again, another opportunity for collaboration. As an example, last year and this year, we've been able to offer pre-conference specifically to our VR programs in the Pacific Rim. The territories this year, we had Guam and American Samoa actively participate, which was phenomenal. And I think we learned, Emily, I don't want to speak for you, but I think we tend to learn as much from our partners in the territories as they learn from us. And then finally, communities of practice. Attending monthly communities of practice, customized employment and supported employment are very active, as well as the established community of practice that we have ongoing with our U.S. territories in the Pacific Rim. And I have to say the PAC Rim COP is fun. Emily, and I'm not sure if Dr. Michael Frayne is in here, but he actively participates as well. We have these scheduled monthly for an hour, and that is just simply not enough time. We're accommodating all different time zones, so we tend to meet in the evenings, but fun, dynamic, engaged group, and they're really leading efforts on the ABLE Act, and Guam has ABLE Act legislation, and now the national, oh gosh, I'm not going to get the name right, but the National Technical Assistance Center, or Resource Center for ABLE accounts, is reaching out to Guam, wanting more information. So it's really kind of a fun, dynamic group. Again, geographic research and impact. States receiving collaborative technical assistance. So technical assistance not only from QE, but in partnership with our other TA centers. We have at least 30 state voc rehab agencies that have received technical assistance in a collaborative fashion across the TA centers. So with QE, as well as some of the other centers that I had mentioned. An example is we do a lot of collaboration with QM, again, the quality management on policy and fee-for-service agreements. Also territorial engagement. So again, as I'd mentioned, the agencies, VR agencies in American Samoa, Guam, CNMI have benefited from these tailored, kind of customized technical assistance efforts, and specifically in addressing the unique contextual factors that they have in the territories in terms of rural and remote, island-based, underserved regions, and oftentimes under-resourced VR programs. In terms of outputs and dissemination with collaboration, again, resource sharing, you'll notice a lot of kind of joint efforts go into many of our materials, our peer-reviewed publications, developed and shared collaborative resources, strategies for business engagement, customized training. Again, all of these are available on our website, as well as joint product development, including co-created toolkits and guides, and integrated universal technical assistance resources and state-specific web pages. And oftentimes you'll see this in terms of we tap each other frequently for expertise in certain areas on webinars. In terms of quantifiable outcomes, the participation in collaborative efforts, over 80% of the state folk rehab agency leadership with collaborative intensive technical assistance has reported improved interagency collaboration. And for those of you who are interested in the research and evaluation, you know, sometimes collaboration can be a little bit of a unicorn, trying to define and measure that, but we're getting closer. Also, increased number of referrals to state folk rehab agencies from federal, state, and local organizations resulting from this active and intentional collaboration. Policy changes, we also have demonstrated evidence of the collaborative efforts resulting in enhanced policies, policy changes taking place in the field. Another testimonial, the kind of bridge building and increasing collaboration that is happening as the result of QE training has just been explosive in a good way. So there's definitely more willingness and more understanding to collaborate across systems, and every day I feel like it's just growing more and more. And that's definitely a direct strategy that QE helped us out with. Through QE's involvement, we've been able to build bridges between departments internally, which has just been incredible and has really increased the collaboration between departments as well. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic.
Sorry. Thank you. Again, Malachi Bishop, and I'll be talking about Objective 5, the dissemination of findings and resources for Project QE. We're getting close. Well, we're thinking about the end, but I just want to make sure that we keep in mind that there are a lot of resources that are still available, and as Jeff said, are going to remain available in the future. And I'm just going to talk about some of those. Obviously, all the great work that partners are doing doesn't mean as much if we're not effectively disseminating it. And so I'll be talking briefly about some of the channels by which we are sharing this information and by which people can access it, including, first of all, the website and online resources. In year 4, 35,000 page views were recorded on our website. The website is and will remain a pretty amazing repository of all the information over the past few years that we've put together, again, with our partners. I want to mention and thank Teresa Kulo and the amazing team at ERI for really all the dissemination stuff, but I think the website is just amazing, and that's many thanks to Teresa and her team. Tacky Tuesday, how many of you receive that I can't remember what day of the week, but you get that every week? Amazing resource, right? It's incredible. I have nothing to do with it, but I enjoy reading it, and it really is, it's been just a great resource and will continue to be. You'll get that every Tuesday if you sign up for it. The webinars, also amazing. Trying to remember if I should advance the slide or I'll just keep going. The webinars. So if you've been paying attention, then hopefully you've been participating in some of our webinars. You've probably seen Natalie, and I want to thank Natalie and Stacy for all their help on those, and certainly all our amazing presenters on those. But we did those basically every month over the course of the project, and in year 4, we've done 8 of those. And about almost 7,000 people registered for our webinars. And those are also continuing to be available. Training modules, again, almost 8,000 people registered for the training modules. And then the compendium of papers that was mentioned, 26 previously, and those are available through JVR and RCB and RPE. So professional journals, those are out there and more will be coming. Jeff mentioned the high number of certificates that have been provided to individuals. Certificates of completion, the audience reach, UTA materials downloaded over 10,000 times. All 50 states and US territories were engaged in participating in the training. Over 30,000 total website users, 30,000 users. Adoption rate, so basically 9 out of 10 people reported that they plan to use the materials, the trainings in their practice, and 3/4 of SVRA, State Voc Rehab Agency leaders, also reported adopting strategies that we were working with them through this project. The resource library, full of resources, as you might imagine, 142 training sessions, 33 webinars, 29 fact sheets, 26 research summaries, and 16 resource guides. And another testimonial. In terms of dissemination of findings and resources, it has led us to really think about our procedures and things like our forms and our letters. We've begun to strategize around how do we make sure that the language that we use in our forms and the way that we are initially communicating about our service, and how do we adopt those to be able to really meet the needs of our consumers within these various subgroups. Thank you for that, participant, and I'll pass it on for objective 6. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the evaluation work that we've been doing using the 9/11 data. All right. So one of the big projects that we started working on as soon as the grant was up and running was really to think about how do we integrate year after year RSA 9/11 data so that we can help state agencies really see trends across time and help them tailor and really dig into the data and find out what is needed. We've been completing both formative and summative assessments, so really thinking about not waiting for evaluation until the end, but working through it throughout the process and using data to help inform how folks can be helped and also to demonstrate and see the progress that was being made. So the formative has been evaluated through the implementation process, and then summative is what we will gear up and continue to work on now as the grant is winding down through this year, and really thinking about, are we touching on some of those long-term outcomes and the effectiveness of the technical assistance that folks have been receiving. Some of the evaluation metrics that we've been using, so the GEPRA measures have been looking at employment outcomes at exit, thinking about coordination with state, federal, and local organizations, and then the adoption of many of the quality employment strategies that us and our partners have been working on through each of those technical assistance areas. Here are a bit of information showing some of those formative assessments about the GEPRA measures. So thinking about employment outcomes, you'll see over the course of the comparison, we have well, 1-year comparison on these 3 bullet points, and you'll see, as we like to see, an increase in those numbers. So from program year 2020 to 21, it was at 33%, and then the last year that we've conducted over a year shows a 61.9% employment outcomes. So in seeing improved outcomes over the course of the year. The other one is thinking about measurable skills gains. And so here we have project year 2022 showing that 40% of the states met their MSG goal. And then in 2023, we saw an increase of 50% seeing that, as well as 70% showing a year-over-year improvement. That was very fast. Tim here? Okay. Tim is not here, so I'm going to pass the mic back to Emily.
So kind of the now what section. And before we start that, I feel like we did ourselves a disservice at the beginning when we said our introductions about the QE team. This was most of the team, but I also want to introduce Stacy Castillo in the back, who's part of the QE team, who claimed she couldn't present with us today because she was busy doing other things. I don't know what that is in the back now. She's been doing all the behind the scenes and helped set up the conference. And then Natalie Meyer, who is downstairs, also doing the same. So that is kind of the full Wisconsin QE team. So I wanted to make sure that we represented them as well, even though they were not able to come up and present today. Oh yeah, and Beth, oh my gosh. Please don't tell Beth Greitner from UW Stout. I don't feel bad. She's in Scotland for a wedding right now, enjoying herself. But yes, also them as well. So also her as well. So, okay, so kind of now what? So where do we go from here? So besides all of these great things that we have done, what do we do with this information? And I think this is like the interesting part about grants or grant projects in general. We do these great things, or we're working on projects and we're really starting to build momentum with state agencies or community partners. And then the grant ends. And then it's like the agencies are like, well, where do we go from here? What do we do? And we have really been thinking about that with a team. I know we have, Tim's been having conversations with QM and NTAC about the same thing because we're all on the same grant cycle of how do we work collaboratively and continue the great movement that all of the technical centers, AverTech as well, have been doing over the last several years. And thinking about once again, all of us have created great websites where we have great information on it that you can continue to use. We want to make sure that we're leaving agencies in a great spot. That does not mean that you cannot, or agencies cannot reach out to us or any of the universities that we work with or other universities from the other technical assistance centers as well for additional support posts. But we really wanted to think about how we could utilize and do this. So once again, knowledge sharing is just really important. Please take all of our information and use it. Take QM and Texas, other people's information and use it. It's that cultural shift that we're trying to create, right? Like we want to be more of that collaborative environment. We want to be supportive instead of working in silo agencies together. We want to maintain that sustainability. More than ever, we want to show we want to show people that our projects are effective, our work that we're doing is good, and we do have an impact. And the way we do that is through that advocacy piece. The way that we do that is through that sustainability piece. So continuing to keep those movements going forward. Also building that capacity piece, I think, is really important as well. So thinking about how do we build capacity within our own agencies? How do we build capacities in our states with our community providers locally in our states, as well as nationally? And really, we do that through that expanding reach piece as well. So going on to the next slide, we think about this. What does this mean in particular for the field? And so we think of things like elevated standards. So really taking those evidence-based practices that we have learned over the last 5 years or 4.5 years with the grant and putting them into practice, redefining how VR services are delivered. And we know that this is a trial and error process, right? Every state agency is very different, whether you're in a combined or a general or a blind agency, whether you're in the Northeast or whether you're in the South or a territory. Everybody has different cultures. Everybody has different ways of approaching things. And that's the great thing about our field is we want to be very individualistic, but we need to define those processes to make sure that we are providing those high quality, effective services. Okay. Next, equity inclusion. So really thinking about serving maybe populations that we have traditionally not served. Maybe thinking about is it rural versus urban, or thinking about is it even in urbanized communities or rural communities, is it transition age use services that we're missing the gap? One conversation that we've had recently, great conversation with CSA VR, is around aging populations going back to work and wanting to work. What a great population that sometimes falls through the cracks because we're thinking about retirement during that age. But through these projects and this collaboration, these gaps are coming to light of how do we refine our services to meet the needs for older populations. So thinking about that in a different sense. Data-driven evolution. So kind of like my colleague was saying, continuing to reporting, our best way to show, not the best way, I shouldn't say it like that. One of the ways that we do show it is through the RSA 911 data. That's the data we report to the federal government and show that our services are being successful. So as VR agencies continue to report that, and as researchers and as community providers, please continue to shed light on the great work that's being done. And that also shows what where the field continues to need to go, both on a state or a local trend and a national trend as well. So please continue to report the great things that your agency or your universities or your community partners are doing. And with that, then we end up having that national influence. We still want to be predominant in the field. We still want to be, and when I say mean, I mean the rehab counseling field in general, not me or our team specifically. But we want to be part of that, and we want to be advocates, and we want to continue this great work that, we've been doing through this grant. We want to continue the collaboration with all of our project partners and other TA centers moving forward. And the great thing is we don't know what that's going to look like, but the unknown is always great, and the hope is there. So looking ahead a little bit, we have expanding outreach, strengthening systems, and sustaining momentum. We have our lovely PI of the project, Tim Tansey. I don't know if you want to jump in and speak a little bit to this and kind of close us out today on this, since this is your project.
Well, you said I was lovely. That gets me on the stage right there. That hasn't happened in a while. Wow. All right. First of all, again, thank you all for being here. When we kind of think about looking ahead, the reality is, and I gotta be careful. I don't want to cut into my keynote, because then none of you will show up and just extend your lunches. But we do have to keep thinking about who are we not reaching in terms of vocational rehabilitation systems? Who are we not reaching in terms of that future educator, that future service provider? So when we think about outreach, we need people. We need people who can be here, who can learn the trade, who can be high quality individuals that can take that next step in supporting individuals. But we need to make sure those people know that services are available and what those services look like. We also know that, and this is, I'm looking at Steve. I'm just trying not to look at him because he smiles and waves and, makes me distracted. But when we think about outreach, I can tell you that the population of individuals coming to vocational rehabilitation services today looks very different than it did 10 years ago. And it looks very different than the 10 years before that and the 10 years before that. We have to continue to think about who are we not reaching and how to reach them based on just looking at our data, looking at our numbers, and just recognizing the world around us and what are the global trends that we're seeing. We do need to strengthen our systems. More than ever, I think, is we're seeing such a high level of scrutiny of the state federal VR program as a whole. They're looking at what is the impact of training programs on that system? What are the outcomes at that system beyond what we might talk about in terms of the Workforce Investment Opportunities Act and the common performance measures? But what are we doing in that system to showcase how valid and valuable these services are? And if we don't have the data-driven approaches, if we're not thinking I'll put it in this way. It's starting out when we write a grant for a project. A lot of times we'll actually start it, well, what do we want to know at the end? What is the evaluation we're trying to do? What do we want to be able to tell people about what was successful about the project or maybe didn't work very well? What are those next steps? When we think about vocational rehabilitation, very straightforward. We want to see people have jobs. But it's more than that. The job is a mechanism. Employment is a mechanism to greater quality of life. The job is a mechanism for someone to feel like they're part of our communities. That employment is a mechanism to create social cultural change in terms of a greater acceptance of persons with disabilities in society. How much of that do we actually track? Kind of track jobs. a little harder when they get, distal and we're starting to use, things like UI data to try to figure out if they're keeping their jobs. But are those individuals, hey, we helped you get a job. Are you happy in that job? Is it fulfilling what you want to do? Did your life change as a function of going through this process? And did it change for the better? We need to start thinking about what data we can have on that. And I say this, and please don't get me wrong. I do not want to see anything else added to the RC 911 data set. It is way too cumbersome and long and complicated as it is. And I think it affects, just the data that we see coming out of that system. What I'm saying is the next time that you as a counselor are working and trying to place somebody with a disability and they get a job, you ever follow up 6 months after? I know they've exited the system and just said, hey, how are you doing? I'd love to have a story to tell my supervisor. Or I've got, Alicia coming in my office next week and I'm really scared of the state director, but I'd love to tell her about this person that I served 6 months ago and the interaction I had with them just on a quick phone call. I know it's hard to find the time to do that, but if we don't plan for it and we don't structure it, we don't do it. And if we don't do it, we don't have the ability to take those next steps. And there's a lot of ways to get there. But again, I think if we're not thinking about what we're trying to show and we don't develop the systems and structures and data to get there, we will never show it. And so that the next time someone comes in and says, what is the value of this program? What is the value of employment? What is the value of this entire system? You'll have a better answer than, well, there's RSA data that points out that here's kind of our overall employment rate, and somebody goes to sleep immediately. That does not work. It's good in terms of, a big report, but if I'm actually meeting with a family member, if I'm meeting with an individual talking about why this is a great program, if I'm meeting with the state legislature that ultimately has to allocate funds for, the state VR program, we're missing the point and we're not doing a very good job telling what we need. So we need to focus on what are those other data elements? What are the other things we need to collect? In terms of momentum, this is the hard part. Again, I'll speak a little bit later about this, but I can tell you, we don't know what's happening in terms of centers like this. There are a number of great centers out there. The National Technical Assistance Center on Transition Collaborative or Cooperative. They'll yell at me later for getting the last C wrong, but no one really worries. They added that on later. The VR TAC for Quality Management, the VR TAC for Quality Employment. I can tell you right now, we don't know what the future of these look like. There are probably people that do. We're getting to a point where I am kind of talking with them about what does the VR program look like without technical assistance? What are the things that they can do in the absence of formalized technical assistance through a program? What are the opportunities to move forward and keep things going? So I think what Emily, when she put these slides together, was originally saying, hey, can you talk a little about what's going to happen with QE next? Well, QE is ending. I can't, and unfortunately I don't have another vocational technical assistance center in my pocket. We're not seeing those awards coming out. And similar to our project, ultimately quality management and NTAC will end. Now, just because we've officially ended doesn't mean that there aren't legacy aspects of these programs. So I start with, is the website going to continue? Yes. We will find a way to continue the website, a minimum of the next 3 to 4 years, at which point, if the information on it's still useful and valid, we'll work on trying to continue it beyond that. But we want this resource being available. I know those centers are working on similar plans as far as what are the legacy elements that can be held and continued on thereafter. And what that looks like and how it looks, that's a work in progress, but they will continue. We want to maintain that access. The individuals, and again, I've had the great fortune, I'm looking at my colleagues at VCU, they picked like the perfect center table. And I see Kentucky over here. Hi, Sandy. When we see a big part of what I think was the benefit of this type of center was we tried to introduce you to who we thought were the experts around the country in these areas, and those experts aren't going away. So the idea of, can I still reach out to a Virginia Commonwealth and say, look, I've really heard about this great training you had, Is it possible for me still to enroll in it? What are the options for us to get involved? What is the option? Just, can I pick up a call and, hey, could you tell me, I'm trying to figure out this specific element of a policy. Could you just take a look at it? They'll be grudgingly about it, but they are with me too. So don't take offense by it. But reach out. We have to collaborate. I mean, the idea that, yes, it's wonderful if we have this wonderful center to support these mechanisms. If in the absence of that center, please reach out. Maintain collaboration, maintain that direction. We want the program to be successful. We want the program to do well. That's what we're here for. We got it to a T. Every individual that I've ever met in terms of research and academia did not get into this for the glory. They didn't get into it for the high prestige. They didn't get into it for the immense salaries. They got into it because they care about individuals with disabilities and those individuals having an opportunity for full inclusion, particularly through the areas of employment, but just in general life. That passion doesn't go away. Now, we supplement that passion through education and trying to train the next generation, or we work with individuals to move forward. But we need to think about that those people are there because they care deeply about not necessarily, some of the different mechanisms, but they care about the outcome. And the outcome has always been, how do we assist persons with disabilities with employment? How do we assist individuals to feel like they are part of society and have the full range of opportunities that other individuals have? I would leverage that passion all day long. Now, it comes down to you reaching out and then them reaching back well. And I'll talk about this today, that we have also an obligation to be effective partners. And being a partner is a relationship. And we'll get into that more. So we need to think about, those things. So that was kind of the first tier. The next tier of things that I know that we're going to be able to continue for at least some time, or we're working on. And again, all these wonderful people over here have been the big part of this, but we started a little while ago, implementation groups. We're trying to work on those implementation groups being sustained so that rather than a formal mechanism of QE operating those, that those groups can actually self-sustain. We'll provide support and logistical support and direction. But just like anything else, it's great to see those things kind of slowly moving off of our roles and greater ownership and responsibility and leadership of the larger community in maintaining those. So that if we want to understand what are the best practices in terms of reducing utilization of sub-minimum wage employment, hey, there's a group for that. And that group is run by people who are facing this issue each day. Is there a way for us to increase our utilization of apprenticeships? Hey, there's a group for that. And that group continues to meet regardless of if there's a quality employment project or not. Maintaining those, it helps break down the feeling that we're siloed, that we don't have someone to talk to, we don't have someone to go through. And so we certainly want to see those things continue. Other things that I'm proposing, and I gotta be careful, again, watchdog, camera, federal, no, they're good folks. But I am looking at, 5 minutes. Stacy's being rough on me today with these flyers. She usually gives me an extra 10. All right. The last thing I want to kind of put out there is one of the things that I think I've really enjoyed over the last 4 years now has been us providing some information on a regular cycle. So we utilize monthly webinars, and we've had a host of speakers and sessions across the spectrum, ranging from that community agency to a great AI team and great social media team talking about their work doing. Hi, Andre. She'll talk next. This is great. To what is happening in support employment and what are we finding about best practices in that area. We want to try to continue that. And so one of the things that we're actually looking at is how do we actually maintain not just that, where we can actually have monthly webinars where individuals can learn about a topic and hopefully get an opportunity to ask some questions about a topic. But then also take recommendations of what are the topics that you need. And if they relate to a project, great. We'll offer it through someone on a project. If they don't relate to a project, let me find somebody who knows a lot about that and get them in, because we want to get this information out. We don't want people sitting, gosh, I really wish I had an opportunity to learn about this, and there not being that opportunity to find that. So things that we'll look at going forward is certainly maintaining those monthly webinars. Still playing out some groundwork for that. But I think, you know, in part, there's a lot of great projects coming forward. We're getting close to the last year of the initial Disability Innovation Fund projects on career pathways. There's a lot of great resources and findings from those. But how many of you know what those are? How many of you know how to access those? Why not get those groups together and to come in and talk about what they've been doing? Their next iteration, you'll see the sub-minimum wage groups are out there, the partnership groups after that, the DIF-F project after that. All these different projects are demonstrating some really unique, innovative things. And so giving an opportunity for people to hear about those, I think, is an important next step of what we will do, regardless of if there's a center or not. We want to see that information being maintained. We want to see access maintained so that if you can't make it to the next conference where people are talking about it, you have an opportunity to access the people who are doing that work and learn from them. All right, I'm probably at 2 minutes. So any last questions about QE before I get away from the microphone or they push me off the stage? Steve. What's it? It's very important.
One thing you didn't mention as far as the value of QE is that you also extended CSAVR's capacity. This guy sitting next to me here, Harley, the work that he's done, it's been able to help Kathy extend some of her outreach as well. So we really appreciate what you've done in helping us capacity. And I didn't realize until just recently, you all are really good at mining 9/11 data. You do a pretty good job of that. So I appreciate that very, very much.
Thank you. All right. Well, I think we're at time. We're really close to it. So thank you all for coming today. Look forward to the rest of the conference and appreciate your time.